I'm not doing this with you today.
Full at a
man.
China shop.
I'm not doing
Everybody
this.
ask Mercedes in the comments what time she sat down, because it was 5 seconds.
I'm still
ago.
logging on, so I
You're-
won't even see anything.
Please leave your meanest comments at this point in the show, because she will not see them. Hello from Bennington. Where's Bennington? Hi, Tina. Hello, Mary. How are
Hi.
you? Should I know where Bennington is?
You should.
I should. Do
I,
you?
I don't.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Could you please let us know where Bennington is? Please inform me. I feel bad for not knowing where Bennington is. I'm sure it's somewhere lovely, but I've just never been there or heard of it.
Yeah.
Happy, what is today? Wednesday?
Today is Wednesday.
Today is Wednesday. It is one of those times of the year where everything is blending together.
It is.
And I have no clue what is going on. That's totally okay, though.
What do you do when you're flustered? Because like I forgot my laptop.
Mm-hmm.
So I ran back upstairs, and that's why I sat down, and Alyssa says 15 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh no. Like, can you function when you're flustered?
Yes, I can.
Yeah?
I actually think sometimes I'm probably higher functioning when I'm flustered.
Really?
Yeah, maybe when I'm angry, I feel like I lock in a little bit more when I'm super focused. I've
Mm.
always thrived in a weird way under kind of that. I don't know if I would say pressure, because I don't necessarily love pressure, but I
Yeah.
feel like I perform better in those types of situations. So flustered, I would say, is thank you, Mary.
Attica. Yeah.
So I would think that, being flustered is almost a little bit of an offshoot of being stressed out or
Yeah.
being pressured, and I feel like that's when I kind of lock in.
Really?
Yeah, I've always
I don't do
liked
well
that.
when I'm flustered.
Really?
I don't do well. I tend to stumble over my words, but I'm also the person, are you always early, or are you the person that shows up on time, or are you late?
I'm always early.
How early?
Always. Let's see. Well, I guess give me something. Give me a scenario, and I'll tell you how early I would be.
A dinner with the family out at a restaurant.
Okay. Well, I would always be late because my wife usually runs late.
Why are you calling her out?
Every conversation, she knows. If she's listening, she knows. She's always about 10 minutes behind.
How late?
10 minutes, I would say, is always kind of her buffer of what is, on time and what isn't on time.
Yeah.
I am always Grace. I always performed better under pressure. So I would say I'm always, depending on the situation, I always want to be early, unless
Yeah.
it is to a party or something. I never want to be that person who's there early. I want to be there casually a couple minutes after it has started. But if it is something that has a time to it of like, hey, we're meeting at 7:00, I will always personally try and be there and be ready by when we are supposed to. I am
Yeah.
somebody who, when I'm rushing,
Yeah.
I get super anxious and super flustered. I feel like that's different though than just being flustered, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I would rather stay home than go late.
I'm totally with you.
I'd rather stay home.
Yes.
I need to be at least 10 to 15 minutes early because I'm the person that likes to read the room. Not because I want to be the first one there, but I
Yeah.
like to. I feel like the magic happens before any event starts.
So you want to like ground yourself in a way of just kind of
Ground myself, and I feel like when I say I feel like the magic happens, you get to meet people because I'm a big connector. I love to connect to people.
Sure.
You can just chill and have conversations. You relax because the event hasn't started yet, and I feel like once the event start, I've made some new friends, and I just have a better.
one of the things that I have learned about you during this process and just over the last couple months, you're very good at talking and connecting with anybody. That's something that I'm very impressed by because I don't have that skill. I think I can turn it on fairly well,
Yeah.
but it really stresses me out. Like even the other day when you were in here and you were recording the recipes stuff.
Yeah.
And there was like just a cast of people. There was like 6 or 7 different
Oh, I
people.
love it.
And you're sitting there
I love
small
it.
talking with everybody, just kind of going over what everybody's doing, how they're going. I can't do that. I just feel like a weird sense of like I'm just not comfortable in that setting.
Well, maybe you're just not social in that way.
I think doing this job, you find yourself to be social. And I think that I can be social. And I think to the outside looking in, if somebody met me, they would go, oh, he's a very sociable person.
Yeah.
But it stresses me out. And it should. But for some
Yeah,
reason,
yeah.
that has always happened. Like I just, if it's not somebody that I know or I really, really like have a relationship with, I have a hard time just small talking with them.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That's like one of my favorite things to do, because I feel like Alyssa, just so you know, if people are making comments, you have to pull them up because my internet just went down. That's what I get for being late.
See,
Um,
still flustered.
But I feel like if you can exercise empathy,
Uh huh.
life is a lot better because I don't think we're that different.
Uh huh.
I don't think we're that different. And I love getting to know people because I just genuinely like to know what's going on in your world. Like, I think we had a conversation before where if somebody was being rude, I would stop them and say, "Are you having a bad day?"
Uh-huh.
Where most folks would be like, "Oh, you get no tip. You get," I genuinely, okay, so what's going on?
Uh-huh.
And maybe I shouldn't be like that,
Yeah.
but I care
Yeah.
about what's going on in other people's lives,
Mhm.
whether I know you or not.
I think that's very commendable, and I think that's very honorable. I do agree with it, and I do think that the root of most of these things I would care. But I kind of always go back to the thing of you never know what somebody else is going through,
Yep.
and I do think
Yep.
that that's important and that matters.
Mhm.
But I also don't. I think there's a time and a place to sometimes just turn it on and not show that.
I feel like, look, the time we're always human everywhere we go.
Uh huh.
We're always human, and if you can connect to the human side of people,
Uh huh.
then you can make friends everywhere you go.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. This is really like deep. Why are we talking about this?
What is Cheryl?
I don't really love. Well, Cheryl's comment popped up and it was so long.
This
I was
is
like,
true.
gosh, this conversation must be really deep. Whatever we're talking about. Readiness skills. One thing I impressed. Sorry, if I am
to be
ever
early.
like doing this tipping thing, it's because there's a camera in front of me, so I'm trying to see the comments tipped around me.
Yeah,
I think
what
that's a
she's saying, to be early is to be on time,
Uh-huh.
and to be on time is to be late. This is true in the world of work and personal
I
interaction.
wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah.
Not disagree.
I disagree.
No, I
wholeheartedly.
wholeheartedly agree with that. I just am somebody who gets very stressed out when I'm feeling rushed.
Yeah.
That's my least favorite feeling is feeling rushed.
You want to know what I remember? Like, going back to what you said, when I was in high school, I moved with my aunt and uncle due to family issues, and I remember everybody around me being so kind.
Mhm.
I remember, not having a ton of money, and there was a shop that I still go to today in Medina, Blissets, where Jay said, "Well, I'm going to take care of your gown," and I remember how that felt.
Uh-huh.
And so I think from that point, I learned when people care,
Yeah.
how it can really affect anybody's life, not only a young person's life.
Mhm.
And from there, I was just like, I want to make people feel like that,
Yeah.
feel like they're seen, feel like they're heard. And I don't know. This
Yeah.
might be too deep. I know.
No, it's not. No easy way to transition, but we do have to take a quick break on the television side of things. If you're watching online, we're not going anywhere.
My internet is down, so I can't see anything.
That's fine. That's fine.
It did this yesterday too.
Oh, I like Michael's jacket that he's wearing. That's very
Oh, that's
nice.
a nice brown.
Yeah, it's a nice brown. What would you call that? Caramel?
I think caramel's a little.
Maybe a little darker.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're talking about Michael Woon's jacket
Yeah.
on television. There's a television right over there. There's a difference between, obviously, and this is something that my wife has really taught me. And it's not so much something that was important for her to teach me, but she's just much more comfortable in this space. The difference between empathy and sympathy, because that was not something that I was familiar with. But in her line of work and what she does with mental health and with school counseling and stuff, I think that that's an important differentiation to know. And I feel like over time, I've better understood it because I still think that there's times when you need to be sympathetic and you need to show sympathy.
yes.
But I do think empathy is probably the more important
It's
trait
next
to
level.
be able to show.
Yeah.
And I think the firsthand experience of that, it's not something that anybody ever wants to go through. But when my dad was really sick and then eventually passed away, it was always interesting to see comments and hear from people who have like, oh, I know what you're going through.
Yeah.
Because you have to understand you don't know what I'm going through.
Right.
And it's very important to understand that. And whenever anybody else is going through something similar, I feel like it's important to remember that of being
Yeah.
like, don't say, oh, I lost my dad, or
Yeah.
oh, I know what you're going through.
Because then you're making it about you. It seems like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's, one of the main differences between the empathy and the sympathy of like understanding that I'll never know what it's like to go through something that you went through, but
Yeah.
I have my own emotions and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a very important thing to realize and kind of deal with.
Yeah, I agree. I think empathy is just straight next level.
Uh-huh.
To be able to, and so my mom and dad had me when they were 16.
Okay.
They were babies. And when you're that young and you're raising kids, you make mistakes.
Mhm.
And so people, like grown up people, will go, but you have to understand where they were. You have to and I'm like, no, I don't.
Uh-huh.
But it's like, wait a minute. If you can take a step back and put yourself in their shoes, and it really hit when my first child turned 16, and I'm like, I can't imagine my son having a kid right now.
Isn't that unbelievable?
I cannot. So the empathy part for that, I was just like, wow, okay.
You know what I have all of the respect and admiration for? And I am so fortunate. How much time do we have? Okay. I'm so fortunate that, my wife is healthy and that we're healthy together. Single parents to me, and especially parents of kids who have developmental differences, I have no idea how they do it. That is to me the most selfless and beautiful and impressive thing in the world, because I see how hard it is to have a child with a spouse, with
Yeah.
2 careers, with a lot of help. I do not understand how somebody could just be able to do what they have to do
Yeah.
and then also take care of somebody.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Welcome back. So during the break, Matt was just closing up on saying, like, you can't imagine how hard it is for single parents.
Single parents,
and things like
parents
that.
who are living paycheck to paycheck, anybody who is raising a child with some sort of developmental difference. I think that that is the most impressive thing on the planet. And I have so much respect for anybody who is doing that, because I know tomorrow, for example, tomorrow's Thursday. So on Thursdays, usually I will have my daughter in the morning, and then my wife will get home, we'll trade off, and then I'll come into work and I'll work nights. So they're long
Yeah.
days. But I have a roof over my head.
Yep.
I have food on the table.
Yep.
I don't have to worry about a lot of things. I get to spend the day with my daughter. And yeah, I'm going to be super exhausted when I get home at midnight and I'm
Yeah.
up at 7 in the morning taking care of her. But that's also such a privilege. Now, in the moment, there are times when I get frustrated and I feel very overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But then I think when I look back on it, I'll appreciate those moments. But then I also know there's people who do that every single day
All by
because
themselves.
they're all by themselves
Yep.
and they don't have another option or a choice.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm just like, I don't know how people do that.
Yeah. So in between my divorce and meeting my now husband, I was single for close to 4 years, and it's not not fun. I had a couple of friends that were helping, and I was working 50 to 60 hours a week.
Goodness gracious.
And so getting and understanding that being a single parent, it's a whole different. I tell you what, we shared so many responsibilities, the kids and I, because life was just busy, that my son looked at me and he's like, "Hey, when are you going to start dating again?" He's like, "I'm tired of taking out the garbage."
Do you feel like that grew them up even more and got them ready to be adults?
Maybe. I mean, because they were still kids. It was just their chores. There was no room for error because everybody had to do their part
Yeah.
in order for things to flow.
Uh-huh.
So they still had a very good childhood, but I did work a lot.
Uh-huh.
I did work a lot.
For me, I have a husband with traumatic
Traumatic
brain
brain,
injury. Every day is a challenge. Mary, well, I'm very sorry.
Yeah.
I just, stories like that, it's
Yeah.
just like having your health. And honestly,
Yeah.
talking to you and
Yeah.
just kind of knowing what you're going through and have continued to go through, it's just like you try and appreciate the things that you have. Sometimes you need the perspective.
Yeah.
But then life gets in the way and you lose the perspective.
Yeah.
And then it's about, trying to bring it back as quickly as
Yeah.
humanly possible, which
But you have a lot going. Like it's easy for all of us when we have a ton going on because you're focused on this, then you're focused on this, then you're focused on this. That's tough to kind of keep things into perspective because sometimes you're just trying to get through the day.
Well, you know what this is for some reason making me think of? When I'm at work, I feel like I have the things that I need to do and the things that I need to accomplish. And then when I get home, I feel like work will often spill into that. But I am trying to make a more, I guess, just like a stronger effort on splitting the two, which is the exact concept of that show Severance that I'm watching right now. It's the first
I
time.
cannot wait to start it.
It's the first show I've watched in years, and that's like the entire concept of the
Yeah.
show. So I'm not spoiling anything for anybody, but it is about being able to basically sever your brain into there's your work you and your outside of work you.
Yeah.
And your work you has no clue what's happening outside of work, and your outside you has no concept of what you're doing when you're actually at work. And it's funny because in theory, I'm sure to a lot of people that sounds like a very desirable thing
Yeah,
or a
yeah,
very
yeah. For a lot of us,
intriguing
yeah.
thing. But then the show is about, not so fast. Be careful what you wish for. So it's funny how this conversation made me kind of think of that, which is
Yeah.
such a top of mind thing for me right now because I'm just hooked. Like I'm going to get home tonight and I'm probably going to watch another episode or
What
two.
made you? Because you're not a show like I've asked you how many times, and you're like, I really don't have a show.
This is legitimately the first show I have watched in years. Years. I think the amount of buzz that it was getting.
Yeah.
I liked the
Yeah.
cast, so I think that kind of drew me to it of like, okay,
Yeah.
I know who these people are. Ben Stiller is the director and the creator of the show. I love Ben Stiller, but a lot of the intrigue to me was about the writing. A lot of people were like,
Yeah.
oh, it's really, really well written.
I'm gonna have
and
to
it's
start it
really
tonight.
interesting. And I'll tell you this though, it starts slow. there's only 2 seasons, and the second season just ended. So I think we're gonna have to wait for a long time. I mean, I was a single mom of 3 for 11 years.
It's a lot.
Joe, how you're able to do that, how anybody who is in a similar situation is able to do that is so unbelievably selfless and impressive to
Yeah.
me.
I mean, what's that saying? You don't know how strong you are until you don't have a choice.
Mhm.
And a lot of people are single parents and they do it every single day. And it's a lot. And there's a lot of guilt that comes with it, especially if you're working and you have time away from the kids, but you have to make ends meet. It happens a lot. It's not, it's very hard. It's very hard. And I experienced a whole lot of guilt.
Yeah.
A whole lot of guilt because I couldn't be there.
And then there's the other end of it, which is such a different perspective. But are you familiar with like the term Catholic guilt? Like the thought
No,
of like,
I've never heard of that.
okay. Do you know what Catholic guilt is? Okay. So like, Catholic guilt is almost the fear that something will go wrong when things are not. There's a lot of different terms for it, but as somebody who was raised Catholic, the idea of Catholic guilt of like, oh, things are going good, but the fear that something will eventually go wrong and you're guilty of that.
Oh, I don't think that's just for Catholics.
No, certainly, but I'm just saying it's an emotion that I think a lot of
Yeah.
people who are raised Catholics, it's like a very like popular term.
Where did it come from, you think?
I don't know. Just like probably old school Italian grandmothers.
Things have been
over the
going
years.
right for too long.
Yeah, right. So that's always like a
Yeah.
kind of an emotion that you've tried to juggle with of like, oh, I've got a job and I've got a healthy family right now, knock on wood, but when's the other shoe gonna fall?
Yeah. I mean, listen, talk about shoes falling.
What?
what everything that I have going on, talking about shoes falling.
Yeah.
But it's life, and the shift for me is just there's something to learn in everything that happens. So if I'm attacking it from the angle of what am I supposed to learn in this? Let me get the lesson and then move on, because wisdom is a great thing.
But is it a faith behind it, knowing that that's the lesson you need to learn and that you'll be able to overcome it? Or
It's my faith, and then I think it just comes with I've never gained anything from all this stress.
is there like music playing?
Yeah, there's something.
Oh, you're good. No, it's okay. I was just like, I hear music
Well,
rudely.
Alyssa said, no, it's me rapping to go to break.
All right, we'll be right back. Was there music?
Yeah, it
I'm not
was.
losing
It was
my
like
mind, right?
a ding or bell or something.
Okay. Huh? Okay.
Let's see. It wasn't me. I'm silent.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, so I know. Just to finish answering your question, it's just kind of like I never get anywhere from stress. I haven't in the past. So okay, what is it supposed to teach me? So we can just.
What were you doing when you had to raise the kids by yourself? Or
I was in corporate America. I was actually in management for AT&T.
oh, no kidding.
I did that for 7 years.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think what store I was at. I was in at the Niagara Falls Boulevard, right off the thruway there, in the Galleria Mall. And then I was manager of the one on Transit,
Okay.
in Depew.
Okay.
And I did that for
For
7
cell
years.
phones?
Yeah.
This is for
And
cell.
I loved it
Oh, no kidding.
because it was talking to people.
Yeah, sure.
It was, yeah,
So you managed what? A branch or a store?
a store.
A store
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
How big how many people worked at those?
The Galleria Mall, I was in the Galleria Mall too. That one was like 4 people. I think the largest one was the one on the Boulevard, and that was about between 6 and 8 people.
So you're working 50 to 60 hours a
Yeah.
week there?
Yeah.
How is that possible? It was just like long.
Because you're the manager.
Uh-huh.
Somebody
were
call
you-
off, it's you.
Were you at least hourly?
Yes.
Okay, so I was
Yeah,
gonna
so
say
I
you
did
weren't
enjoy
s-
that.
I was gonna say
I
so
did
you weren't
enjoy that.
salary, so I was
Yeah,
gonna say
yeah,
that's tricky. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And then how did you get back into media?
I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
There's the answer.
Diagnosed with breast cancer.
Jeez.
And I left. I was just like, you know what? Life has taken a different turn for me. And I left and started the nonprofit, and yeah, didn't look back.
Yeah.
I loved it
How
though.
long ago was that?
2011.
And then when did you start working here?
3 years ago.
Okay.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Admittedly, it's crazy. We didn't really know each other until the show.
No.
I mean, it's just like
And that's a tragedy because you're a pretty cool dude.
right back at you.
Yeah.
But it's funny because like all of these different departments work so not isolated from each other, but
We're
you
like
know,
in silos, even though we're in the same building. 'cause
yeah, for sure.
everybody
Like
is-
Autumn is just walking outside right now. So like Autumn and I knew each other because we would be standing next to each other on television occasionally, like if she was doing weather and I was doing sports. But yeah, no, I mean it was like a different world upstairs. I was
Yeah.
like, it's like going into like Narnia or something. It's like I'm trying to avoid going upstairs.
Why?
I just because I don't know. I just told you I don't love talking to people I don't
see.
know. It's scary.
I'll walk through the building and be like, "Hi, you.
Yeah, for sure.
Hi, you. Hi,
Yeah,
you."
No, I ain't about that.
No,
That's
I'm not
scary.
about that life.
That's scary to me. No thanks. I'm good.
Especially when you have food, it's easier to talk to people.
That's a good point.
And I always have food.
That's a good point.
Hmm. All right, welcome back to Studio 7.
Yeah,
We
you send those. You send those emails. She was just talking about how it's easy to be the person who's always got food when everybody wants to
Yes.
flock there. Mercedes will send emails to the newsroom and it'll be like, "Hey, there's food in the studio. Come get it."
Come
and everybody
grab
comes
some.
flocking back here.
Yeah,
It's like a race.
like today we had a corn salsa from one of the cast
Say
members.
that again. Salsa.
A
Salsa.
corn.
She said it a little weird, right? Yeah, it was like
Wait a minute! Don't you two start again? We did this
Salsa?
yesterday.
corn salsa.
That's what I said.
You said like salsa.
Salsa.
You know what's always funny?
Corn salsa.
If you're anybody who's listening or watching from Canada, please leave a comment because they have a different way of saying pasta. They say pasta. It's like a very pronounced way of saying
Well,
pasta.
you say sherbert.
And so do 86% of the rest of the world. And let me tell you, Mary J. Blige is more famous than Baby. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, we're not going there.
Yeah,
again,
we'll not
friends.
go there
We
again
are
today.
not. And listen, when I got home, my husband's like, "Bobby was right." I was like, "Sir, do you want dinner?"
What was for dinner?
I don't know. I got him pizza and wings from Just Pizza. I scooped it up,
Okay.
and then he said that, and I gave it away.
Yeah, you're like, no thanks. I'm gonna give it to somebody else. I had something that I wanted to say, but I completely forgot what I was going to say. I hate when that happens too. I'll probably think about it in
Comes
about
with
an
getting
hour.
old.
buddy. We did so there was a big moment 10 years ago today. I hate when it switches to the one shot when I'm unexpecting it. I'm like, oh no, I'm on camera. 10 years ago today was a really low point in Buffalo sports because the Buffalo Sabres played against the Arizona Coyotes, and it was here in Buffalo. They were the worst two teams in the league, but they were, quote, tanking to finish at the bottom of the standings to try and get a better player
yeah.
in the draft. So that was 10 years ago today. So when I got in today, I went through some of our archives to try and find the video. You want to talk about a stark difference. Me 10 years ago to me now, it is crazy. 10 years is a lot to a person. And I looked at those pictures and I was like, wow, you were like legitimately a child. And it happens so fast. And it feels like it was yesterday, but my life is so drastically different than it was 10 years ago.
Well, that's a good question for the folks at home too. Or the folks online. What do you think when you look at yourself like 10 years ago? I'm sure you've heard of the glow up.
Yeah, sure.
Would you say the glow up has happened after that? Or
Oh,
was
no.
that your
No,
No?
I just feel like at that point in my life, it was much more youthful,
Mm-hmm.
much less responsibility, a lot less stressed. But there's also things that I wouldn't trade.
Yeah.
10 years ago, I didn't have a wife. I didn't have a daughter.
Yeah.
I, was still living at home 10 years ago. I would have been 22 years old at that point. So I was still pretty young. And yeah, my life is drastically different. And there's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad too. Like you
Yeah.
look back on the perspective of what would 22-year-old Matt Bove say if he knew that this is where he was in 10 years? I think he would be really, really happy and grateful for the opportunities had from a career standpoint, from a lot of personal life stuff. But at the same time, what if you told 10 years ago, Matt Bove, that you would lose your dad and you only had this much time left? Would that have
Yeah.
changed your perspective on just kind of your
Yeah.
life? Because that would be the biggest loss that I've had to deal with so
Yeah.
far at this point in my life.
Yeah.
So really interesting about how, there's some good and there's some bad, but we can't choose. And
Yeah.
that's the part of life. You don't know what's going to happen.
Oh, here we go though.
What?
Just
what?
renewed our passports. That was shocking. I hear that.
Oh, for the picture? For the
look.
passport picture?
Matt, you haven't seen anything yet.
Well, the perspective of my daughter is going to be the thing because everybody tells you, and it is a very genuine thing, but everybody's like, the days are long, the years are short.
Oh my!
If I had $1 for every time I heard that, I would
When
never,
it comes to kids.
I would never have to work another day in my life because that's what everybody says.
Oh, okay.
It's like, yeah, in terms of kids.
I put up a post this morning that's so funny. I don't know if you saw, but I put up
I
a
didn't.
post. I said we should be ashamed of ourselves. Whenever someone that we know or love has a kid and they say, "Give me some advice," you say, "Up." When they're babies, you're never going to get any sleep, and when they get older, they're not going to want to hang with you. They're going to want to be with your friends. I said nobody talks about the years in between.
Uh-huh.
when your house just smells like Fritos
Yeah.
because
Uh-huh.
their little feet,
Yeah.
they're everything. I'm like, we have to add all of those in because those
Sure.
moments,
Uh-huh.
they're nuts. So I'm like, we have to talk about those.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not just, you're not going to get any sleep. Nope. For a few years there.
No, it's funny how everybody kind of like handles the news that somebody's going to have a baby with such a different. Some people are like, it is the greatest joy you will ever feel. And then the other half of people are like, welcome to hell. There's like really no in between. And I feel like I
No.
find myself almost always living in the gray area
Mm-hmm.
of like, yeah, I'm so happy. I love her more than anything. I would do anything for her. There's also days when I'm like, dude, just go to sleep. I want to be able to have an hour to myself, please. And that's, I've talked about it on the podcast before.
Yeah.
There's days I wake up at 7. Today I woke up at 7 o'clock. It was 25 degrees outside. And I was like, I just want to get out of the house. So I just went and walked for 45 minutes. I was just like, I'd rather be freezing than by myself for a nice walk than be dealing with the chaos
Yeah.
of Harper the dog losing her mind
Yep.
and Ellie starting to wake up and my wife getting ready to go to work. It
Yep.
was like, you know what? I'm just going to get outside and just put on a podcast.
I used to just go to Walmart and walk.
Really?
Yeah. Walk every aisle.
That's why.
Didn't necessarily need to buy anything
Just wanted to
because
go.
it was just to get away.
But you picked Walmart.
Because it had a lot of aisles.
I feel like you could have went to Wegmans.
A lot of aisles.
More
time.
Or Tops. We don't pick favorites.
I mean, I'm talking about when my kids were little.
Mhm.
And I lived in Olean.
Yeah.
I used to go to Walmart.
You lived in Olean?
I did. I lived in Olean.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Go
I went-
Bonnies.
Yeah, I went to college there. I didn't go to Bonos,
Uh-huh.
but I lived in Olean for 8 years.
Uh-huh.
And
Did you ever go to Sprague's while you were in Olean?
if you have not been to Sprague's,
Yeah.
you need to go.
Yeah, its place is awesome.
The best pancakes, the best sausage, everything.
Yeah, and the syrup
Yes.
is, we just ran out of the syrup. So I got to go back to Olean to get the syrup to go to Sprague's. I think they might sell it at other places too.
And you can tap the trees there.
Yeah, it's like the
yeah.
whole thing. Well, it was just Maple Weekend, right? That was the thing?
Yes.
Because I think I actually saw Autumn posting about it, so we'll ask her about it.
Yeah.
I don't exactly know what Maple Weekend entails, but whatever. All right, want to say goodbye?
Gotta go.
You can say goodnight.
Have a good night.
Bye, guys.